Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Adam with Adam So Fun. I picked out my colors, I've loaded my back, I've stitched down my plumb line, so now I'm ready to load the top of my quilt. Again, I am doing a Dream Big panel. This is the way I like to do it. I'm going to stitch it down, base the whole quilt, so then I can roll back and forth. I like to start in the middle and then work my way out. So we have a plumb line. I am using 2 layers of batting in case you didn't watch the thread, how I pick my thread out video. When I make my plumb line with that 2 layers, you get this little bit of a lip because there's just so much thickness that you're pushing down. So it makes lining the top up a little bit harder, but in this case, it's a wall hanging and I'm gonna be able to square it off because it does have some edges on it. So I'm not too worried about that. And even when I do, my bigger quilts and everything, I can kind of put the edge of this, of the fabric right into the groove that stitch makes, and the batting will kind of hold it there, and then I can sew down the top. I will bring you close so you can see again how I sew down the top in case you haven't seen the way I load my quilts. All right, I'll change the angle and see you in a second. All right, so when I'm basting down the quilts, I like to use the Versatool. I use this to hold the fabric down as I'm stitching across, because if I finger press that fabric, I usually walk it and I will push it at an angle, and this helps me keep it straight. So I do have a Surefoot on my machine. I do have the ruler base, and I'm gonna be using the Versatool. I use this a lot, especially since I'm stitching down the sides a lot. On all my quilts, I always stitch down the side. So I usually stitch with that ruler base always on. You can take it on, you can take it off. You do lose a little bit of stitch out space in your throat, but to me, keeping that on, I just like it. So I'm gonna use this. I've already pulled up my bobbin thread and done a little tie off. The Versatool does have these etched lines. I don't know if you can see them, but it does have etched lines. So I know my needle's gonna stitch from this line to this line. So I'm gonna line that up. Start button. I'm stitching at 5 stitches an inch, and I'm in precision cruise with my cruise set at 25, just so that I know myself to turn the machine off when I'm moving this ruler. So in this case, there's not a huge, I'm not worrying to have to stick to that like 1/8 of an inch away from the edge, because I do have this border on here. In the regular case, if I'm doing a quilt top, I always try to stay within that 1/4 inch, so this stitch is gonna be hidden behind the binding. But in this case, it's not a huge issue because I'm gonna be cutting this side off anyway. So I will just continue this all the way across. I do the same thing down the sides, and then I will bring you back when I start to baste the top of the quilt. All right, so one really quick thing I did want to mention is that you see this lip here. I always give myself extra room in my top, so I'm not trying to stretch my fabric to hit this stitch line. So once when I stitch down the top, I want this extra fabric, so I'm not like stretching it. Once this top line is on, I then make sure my ratchets are down, and I'm gonna tighten this top up. In most cases, I tend to do this really far in the back. I do have a super leader, so I get some extra, like it comes closer to me. A super leader is gonna have 27 inches of leader instead of 17, so you get an extra 10 inches. If you're working with an Amara or a 16 or an Avante on the studio frame, this is an Infinity on the gallery frame. If you get this super leader, it brings the leader almost all the way up to this to your top bar, so you don't have to stretch when you're loading your quilts up and stuff, and it gives you the opportunity to do this basting stitch a lot closer to you, so you don't have to like tippy toe and get over. I'm a tippy toer. I tend to want to use my whole throat. In this case, I've done this, I've stitched it all the way down. Now I'm going to release my ratchets, and I want to pull this as far as I can, because this next part, I'm just gonna baste down the whole top. So let me roll this up some. My needle is down, so I'm not gonna go crazy rolling this. There we are. I'll lock my ratchets. Pull everything a little bit taut. Give my batting a pull. And you'll notice that when I do my batting, I can't do it this way. I always come from the other side. I call it the pancake pull. I kind of make a pancake out of it and just give it a little squeeze and slide my hands. If you put your hand in it and pull it, you're just gonna put a big hand mark. But now I have a nice taut top. Sometimes I pin here, sometimes I don't. I don't know, it just depends on the mood. But now I'm gonna use my Versatool again. And I know you're not up close, so you can't really see this, but I'm just stitching down the side. I don't slide my Versatool down the quilt. I pick it up, and if I need to maybe shift this fabric out a little more, I can put my Versatool down and slide it towards the foot. So I'm actually sliding my top out instead of sliding my top down. If I were to just slide it, I'm gonna be pushing that top down with me, and I don't wanna do that. I wanna keep everything as straight as I can. In that case, you saw me slide. I'm not putting any pressure, I'm just moving it. You have to be careful how you manipulate that fabric when you're, when you're not doing something specific. Because everything you do, maybe you are rolling it and moving your hand. If I push down, I'm sliding that fabric, I'm making a wrinkle or a pucker, and you don't want to do that. So I've done this side. I'm going to come over. You will notice if you've ever used a double bat that the machine is a little harder to push because you do have that much more thickness under that needle, so you're kind of moving that thickness along with you. All right, so I'm going to stitch this side down. And this is just basting the sides down. Oh, that was my tie off button, but I switched it to start and stop when I was videoing the other thing, so I'm not actually used to that. So I just needled up, needled down to tie off. All right, so now I've got everything stitched down. I do, like I said earlier, I like to baste at 5 stitches an inch because it will stop needle down. If you do anything larger than 5, once you go into the basting stitch functions, you can't stop needle down, and I just like to stop needle down. It's a personal preference, so so that's what I do. So now that I have this this stitch down, I'm gonna put my side clamps on, and then I will come back and show you how I'm gonna baste the top down. Okay, so I have my side clamps on, my sides are all basted down. I don't know if you noticed, I do use the new bungee grabbers. Oh, they're so great. You can do everything with one hand. If you're looking to add anything to your frame, that would be my first addition. Also, you can see that I use straps of webbing instead of clamping right onto my top. I do that because I use the ruler base a lot. So I don't know if you can see this on the camera, but my ruler base is a good like 2 inches off the backing of my quilt. If those clamps were there, that ruler base would be hitting that clamp. So I pin the webbing to my top or to my backing and then clamp onto the webbing. It also gives a lip on the webbing for the clamps actually to hold on to. So if you are someone who pulls your clamps too tight and they slide off the top, it gives yourself one extra like grip. Let's see, so I'm still in my basting stitches. I'm still gonna baste this whole thing with 5 stitches an inch. I find that it's pretty easy for me to pull out, not an issue. This still has variegated pink Omni V thread from the last quilt I did, and I'm just gonna use that because I'm gonna take it out anyway, it doesn't matter. So I am going to do like a big stipple, just a wave. And I'm just wanting to hold everything down. Because, like I said, I'm going to start in the middle and work my way out. So I want to make sure that when I'm not stitching something and I'm rolling this quilt back and forth, it's going to hold itself where it needs to be. And I can come in and just pick the places that, or unpick the places that I'm going to be working, and then do that as I work my way out from the center. So it's going to hold everything in place. Let's see, there's that. My thread. So now my first section is done. I can advance and work on my next section. I do have a large throat here, so maybe on yours you are only going to be able to baste this much at a time, but I try to pull and baste as much as I can in each kind of run, so it's less basting. I was just trimming these threads off the sides. Make sure you do that. If the threads are too long, or if you have a backing that is kind of shedding, if those threads are too long, they will get tied up in the wheels of your machine, and that just isn't a good day. So I'm going to undo my clamps, advance, restitch the sides, and finish basting the rest of this. I think I'll speed through all of that so you can kind of see me doing it, but we'll jump back in with the next video and I will actually start quilting this. Thank you for watching. Remember, you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram at AdamSewFun, SEW. You can also check me out at AdamSewFun.com. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you back in that next video. Bye.